Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
Agadina Shabbos, Parshas Vayetzei, Tavshin Pei Vav. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shiur is generously sponsored by my dear cousins, Daniel and Dina Jarisho of Fairlawn, New Jersey, as well as by Chaim Tzvi Feldberg and family of Manchester, New Jersey. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, the Hudson Zaltz Law Firm, T7 Capital, and Bluestone Brokerage. For future dedications to sponsor the Lechtich Weekly Parsha publication and podcast, please reach out to 845-367-2959. We continue with our schedule of trying to talk about what's relevant. There's no specific agenda. Every week, whatever comes, whatever we can take from the Parsha, as the focus. So last week we spoke about Habas Yisrael. That's what we spoke about. And this week, the Indian Mamish, the same Zach, we're going to speak about integrity, being an emes in our parnosa, in our asakim, in our vocations, be them as they may. So to start off, I once read a Maisa a few years ago. Maisa goes to Yaakov Kamenetsky, that he was living in Muncie, and even Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, they used to use the USPS, United States Postal Service, believe it or not. Even Gedolim Tzadikim, they needed to leverage the mail service. And his wife noticed that the page that has the stamps on it, she noticed that often Rabbi Yaakov, a lot of times he would take walks and he would be able to do things locally. And every time he'd come back home, she noticed that he would tumult in the closet and he would go to the paper with the stamps, and she didn't really make a big deal out of it. Okay. And a few times passed, and after Rabbi Yaakov left, he came back home and he opened the closet and he heard him again tutziching with the papers, and she decided to go see for herself what's he doing, what's he busy with. And she saw there was a bunch of shredded, ripped up stamps. So she went to her husband, Rabbi Yaakov, and she said, "My hi. I notice every time you leave the house, or when you leave the house, sometimes you have an envelope, you have something, and then you come back, and I tracked your trail, and I see that you come and you go to the mail stamps. What's going on?" And I see they're ripped up. And he said, very pashut. He said, Vayetzei, I would want to use the USPS. I want to use the mailman, but I can walk. But there's a service. It's even hard to say the Maisa because we're so far from this. But he would rip up a USPS postal stamp every time he hand-delivered a piece of mail or a check as a karas hatov, or as if he's using the service. So he ripped up a stamp. Hard to fathom that level of ehrlichkeit. But that was Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. That even to be nene from the stamp, that there was no halacha, he didn't have to do it, but there was some very deep, strong sense of sensitivity of other people's money, even a guy, that every time he would hand deliver a piece of mail, he would rip the stamp. Where does this come from? It comes from the Torah, obviously, and it comes very much from Yaakov Avinu in this week's parsha. It's an actual astounding medrash pliya, like medrash fizz, no? It's a fast one. I heard this from Rabbi Sully Bornstein Shlita on his Vayetzei on the parsha, the Hafladik. The pasuk says, Perek Lamed Aleph Pasuk Vav, the whole back and forth with Yaakov and Lavan and the wives, and Yaakov worked all those hard years and he got messed over. And what did Yaakov Avinu tell his wives? He says, with all of my koyach, with all of my power, with everything I possibly could have done, I worked to your father, I schwitzed away for 7 years, and then another 7 years that I got messed over, and it's time to go. Steht in Ramban, Hilchos Chius, we call Yosef a tzaddik. You ever heard of Yaakov a tzaddik? You ever heard of Yaakov a tzaddik? Ever heard of Yaakov a tzaddik? The Rambam calls him in Hilchos Chius. V'chein chayv la'aved b'chol koichoi. He's talking about a socher, he's talking about a worker, and he says a person is mechuyev to work with all of his might, with all of his diligence, with all of his power. Sharei Yaakov had tzaddik, saying Rambam, Yaakov the tzaddik, Omar ki b'chol koichi avadati azivichem. With all of my might, with all of my strength, I've served your father. And lefikach notos charzoisaf b'olam hazeh shenamar vayifrat haish ma'in ma'in v'kulu. So the Rambam is very interesting. The Rambam calls Yaakov a tzaddik. Very interesting. We don't usually hear such a lashon. We don't hear such an association of Yaakov a tzaddik. Maybe Yehuda a tzaddik, but Yaakov a tzaddik, never heard. Right? Also, he quoted a medrash. The medrash says, Medrash Rabbah, Rabbi Yirmiyah Omar, Chaviva hi hamalacha mizchus avos. Melacha, working with integrity, working as an honest man, is chaviva, is cherished, it's coveted, it's beloved to the Eibishter. Mizchus avos. Greater than the schus of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov is the schus, is more chaviv, is more cherished. Work that's done with integrity. Why is schus avos yitzila mammon? The schus of our forefathers, they saved on a monetary level. Umelacha atzilu nefashis. But melacha, work that was done with honesty, saved nefashis. How do we know that? Schus avos atzilu mamam Hashem meluve elekei avi. Malacha to the nefashis, and as ani the esegia kapai girlekim, the gear of my hand, ra lekim mekulu, and it saved lives. We see, so the Medrash is telling us that the schus of melacha is even greater than others. So what's going on over here? We see the Rambam is calling Yaakov a tzaddik because kibu kolchi avadati as avichan, and we see that the Medrash says that melacha, the chaviva melacha is schus obvious, that the schus of working with integrity is greater. What's the pshat? So he quoted from Rav Shmuel Yankov Barnstein. I forgot the name of his sefer. I'm assuming it's one of his relatives. But he said, what we see from this Rambam, what we see from this Medrash is something astounding and ever so relevant. That the Rambam calls Yaakov, he gives this association to Yaakov Avinu of tzaddik because of his unwavering commitment to adhere and to stick with his commitment. And even though he got messed over, and even though he could have had all the tainas in the world, and he could have shut Laban to Bezdin and wiped the floors, and there's no chance. He knew he was a Rama, he was a Shakran. But Yaakov Avinu said, I'm going to work another 7 years, and I worked another 7 years. Because of that, he went down as a tzaddik. And more than that, the schus of melacha is greater than the schus of us. Why? Because we see that in the Eivishter's books, we know it's not an easy thing. We know we can get swept away with the allure, with the dazzle of money, of chapping, of chas v'shalom trying to mess someone over, of not being honest in our ways. And for this, the Medrash tells us, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Chaviva melacha mischus avos, as great as the avos were, but if a person can be honest, if a person can be emes, can be a yashar, that's even more chaviv to the Eibishter than the schus of the avos. A beautiful parallel as we're going through Peli Yoetz, just a quote. The Peli Yoetz teaches the proper attitude that one should have towards monetary pursuits. It's mamash goes hand in hand. Anytime if we're ever confronted with mental conflict, how should we go about? Should we be emes, should we not? And there's always opportunities, even if it comes with returns and with the Amazon chats and with disputing credit card charges. It's a very prevalent issue, and it's very easy to go on the Amazon chat and you messed this over. always ask a Rav, can you do this? Can I not do? Can you just dispute an Amex charge? It's not so pasha. We always have to be very careful. And if we want to give ourselves something to always remember and as a barometer to keep us in check, to keep us in line, we know the Gemara in Shabbos says the first thing that they're going to ask a person is, did you conduct your business transaction faithfully? And furthermore, a person is never ever going to lose if he errs on the side of caution. Why? Because one who trusts in Hashem and does conduct his affairs faithfully, then that a person is going to be enveloped, going to be surrounded in the goodness and the kindness of the Eibishter. So what better bracha can there be of that? So as much as it's better to get the $200 back from the Amex and to get the Amazon product, these are things we all struggle with every day. At least I do, right? And we try to ask shaylas and do it in an Emes way, but sometimes there's always this sliding scale when it's not as is gehalten. But always remember that Hashem is going to work it out. And the blessing of Hashem is going to ultimately make a person wealthy. And when a person does rely on Hashem, and he steps up and he's triumphant in these tests, in these nisyonos, he's not going to lack anything. And his needs will come to him in a permitted and easy manner. Not only is he going to be good in this world, but even in the next world, he's going to get schar, double schar, because in this world, Hashem is going to take care of him, and in the next world, he's going to get schar. So he's up to Pal Yoetz. And one last nikuda, always beautiful from the Shar B'tachin. The same exact thing. It's appropriate for someone who has B'tachin. This overlaps, of course, with B'tachin. Always have B'tachin in Hashem regarding everything, and especially your income. And when it comes a time where you feel it's lacking, or you feel that maybe I need to be more aggressive, and chas v'shalom there's sveikis, I'm like, maybe I can. Here's a good way to. This is the opportunity. It's gonna hurt. No. Remember those times when you have this feeling of being aggressive, of maybe going over the line. Hashem is the one who took care of me from the time I was created until now, which is no small feat. Every single second is gecheshbon. Hashem knows exactly what's best for me from the time He created me until this second, and every decision and every movement and the health and the sustenance and everything He's given me. So why do I have to deviate? Why do I have to carve out my own way of chapping, of making? Hashem is going to take care of it. And that's what we see from Yaakov Avinu in his words of Ki b'chol koichi avarati. We could have said, Yaakov, like, grow up, be a big boy, don't forget about the Das Torah. Like, you're right, you're in the green, you're the innocent guy. You don't have to keep on exerting yourself and working from him and being Mr. Nice Guy. No, Ki b'chol koichi avarati. That's why he was zeich. That's why the Rabbim calls him Yaakov Tzaddik, and that's the Medrash is telling us that a person who deals in his affairs with integrity, with emes, he is chaviva yosem mischus avos. There's once a year in Eretz Yisrael, he got a brand new car, brand new fancy car. And the first thing he wanted to do with his car is he wanted to be mishamish Rav Chaim. I gotta remember when I got my license, I remember the first thing I wanted to do with my license was I wanted to drive to yeshiva. So even though we weren't allowed to drive, shout out to Bishraga. But I remember that I wanted that schus to driving to yeshiva. So I remember I parked it on Blavel to whatever, and then I walked, but my first drive was to yeshiva. Okay, so this Yid in Eretz Yisrael, this Yid in Bnei Brak, he's a businessman, and he got his new car, and the first thing he wanted to do was be mishamish the Gadol Hadar, the Paisik Hadar, Mor Chaim Kanievsky, Tzaddik Kodesh Avrocha. And what happened was, he called the Gabbai, and he said, "Nu, can I have the schos? Can I be mishamish? Can I drive the Rav from his house?" He's like, "It's really not needed, it's not necessary," and he pushed it, and he's persistent. And the Gabbai finally said, "Okay, whatever." He asked Rav Chaim, and Rav Chaim said, "Okay, if this is what he really wants, no problem." So the guy, this Baal Bus pulls up to Rav Chaim's apartment. Rav Chaim comes out, gets in the car, and Guy goes in to drive, and all of a sudden, starts jump. Nothing doing. So, it feels all awkward. It's his brand new car, and he like stopped Rav Chaim and started like kicking his das. Okay. So Rav Chaim says, okay, like, thank you. Like, he goes out of the car. And then obviously, he starts his car up again. And no problem. Goes in drive. So he backs back up to Rav Chaim. And he says, like, can I try again? So Rav Chaim gives him another chance. Okay, he goes back in the car. From park to drive. Hits the gas. Garnished. This happened another 2 or 3 times. Finally, it was clear that every time Rav Chaim was out of the car was working. And when he was in the car, it wasn't working. Obviously, there was something going on. Which made Rav Chaim ask the question. He said, can I ask you a question, Mr. Balabas? He said, where do you get the car? Heart started pounding. He said, well, I got it from my brother. He's a dealer, whatever. And he said, is your brother in the regular car market? He goes, not. The regular is in the gray market. He goes, there's the answer. Your brother got the car from the gray market. Hashem doesn't want me binene. He doesn't want me deriving an ounce of shemetz, of mashahu, of hana, from money that is not perfectly oisgehalten, money that is not perfectly gecheshman, that's not glatt, that's not clean, that's not pure. That's what Yaakov Avinu tells us. That's what he's telling us. That's what he's imparting to us through his words of ki b'chol kochi v'arati. Sometimes we don't understand why we're in certain situations. Sometimes we don't understand why we have to encounter certain people, of course. And we're like, what does Hashem want from us? But if you realize the perspective, like, why does Hashem need me to be in a situation where I feel like I'm always getting messed over, where I feel I'm always the underdog, or I'm always being mevater? The answer is because that's the avodah of life. That's the challenge of reaching shleimus, of attaining wholesomeness. But when we do that, we realize that Yaakov Avinu was the first guy to get taken for a ride, to get literally ran over, but he endured. And this is what we learn from him, that it requires endurance, it requires resolution and commitment. But when we do that, then we should be zeiche to chaviva, yoser mischus avos, to being greater determination and commitment to emes, to integrity. When we do that, we should bring Hashem tremendous nachas ruach. We should always be able to conduct ourselves in a way, even when it's hard and challenging, to say, Hashem, you put this situation in front of me, you ordained it, you have everything down from the second I was born until now, so I don't know why I have to be busy with this guy, with this company, with this situation, but I know it's for my best. I'm going to make the best of it, and whatever happens, I'm going to be the most emistic about it, and it's all for you. And Be'ez Hashem, we should bring Hashem tremendous nachas ruach and chavivus, and only good things in Atzlacha. Shkoyach.
I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.